Okay, there we go. So, how's your Friday been?
It's great. As you know, I like to go to the beach, and I had a wonderful time down at the beach this morning. And I was listening to something, and it was just a great reminder, actually, of something we spoke about recently on this podcast, which is start your morning with something energizing. And I did that. So,
Nice.
yeah, if I get a habit of a nice reminder video, like a good Tom Ferry video, and then something with a little energy, usually music or something like that. I'm talking like 5 minutes, like just one song or one video,
And good to
right?
go.
We
Do
got
you
to
still
make
listen
that decision to be happy, right? If we expect to come out and find happiness, you'll never find it because it's within.
funny, we had that conversation this morning on our role play. We were talking about that, and that the perceptions that we are currently seeing are, the choices that we made to find that in a particular situation. And, it was funny. One of the agents was talking about, um, the fact that the market is one way, and somebody else said the exact opposite. I said, well, depends on what we're looking for every single day. That's what we're finding. But um, are you watching the tour?
I am. I got a little bit behind, so I just watched the final mountain stage this morning. Actually, I kind of did a fast forward through it, but that was one of the most interesting endings to a stage I've ever seen because they were so far ahead, and it was two teammates, and so they
Mhm.
were just kind of cruising and
Right.
doing this, and then they went across the line with their arms across one another. It was really cool.
Yes. So I'm excited. Today's a time trial. We'll be done tomorrow, and it's been a great tour. I've seen every single stage, and
These are the top
it's
results.
oh, look at that. My phone is hearing me say, I must have said Google or something. um, yeah, because I've been enjoying the heck out of it. And it's been a crazy tour this year. What was it, stage 18? That was ridiculous. Day before yesterday, that mountain stage finish was absolutely ridiculous. And
With
then,
that new American Sep and the work he did on
oh,
that mountain, that was
I'm,
incredible.
I'm liking him. I'm liking him a lot. I'm just liking the fact that there's a lot of newcomers that have come to the front, people that we hadn't seen
Yeah.
before. So,
I know. I turned on the tour. I'm like, what is this? Who are these people?
right? No, but it's been some exciting racing. But anyway,
All right.
so our topic today is we were going to talk about, obviously we're still right in the midst of COVID, and we talk so much about COVID. We're really in the midst of a lot of different things. Black Lives Matters, COVID, the election, all of these things have created a disruption in our world and our country and our industry. And, our talk today was going to be a little bit about what changes have we made, kind of what have we done to pivot, what we've seen some of the agents do to pivot, some of the results maybe of what we've seen. And I will say this, I don't see a end in sight. And I'm also interested to hear from you. Some of these changes that have occurred, I think are going to be with us forever, regardless of some of these are the new norm. They're not, it's not a, hey, you know, we have COVID. So, example, when COVID's past us, will open houses come back? Yes. But will virtual open houses go away? I don't think so. Um, will 3D Matterport, go back by the wayside and dwindle down? I doubt it. I think that some of these things that we've seen in our industry are here to stay and evolve even further. So that's our topic today. I'm excited to talk about it. I know that there's some people in the chat already, so you guys are welcome to chime in the chat. And if you've got some input or you have some questions, please feel free to let us know. Appreciate it. And Travis, how would
Yep.
you like to start?
Well, in preparation for this, I was considering what's going on. And yeah, there's always the talk about pivot before pivot's necessary. So that's been a topic out there. And I thought kind of along the same lines as you. I'm like, this is different. And so I kind of divided my thoughts between pivot and the traditional pivot, which has been going on, since at least the 70s, since my father was in the business. A pivot was a change in the market, which is typically a change downward, right? Because if it changes up, it's not as devastating. But when it changes down, the psychological effect of that is what creates a lot of trouble for agents, and why we talk about pivot and making sure you're having yourself in the right position mentally, physically, financially, skill-wise, ready for that, prepared. And I don't think it's any different this year in that regard, with the exception of some things are here that are never going to go away, as you just mentioned. And I guess the biggest one that I have that we can go into more detail is I've been in the business 21 years now this year. When I got in this business, we didn't have the MLS books, but agents didn't really have laptop computers. The MLS access was by a piece of software. So you had to buy it and have a computer to put it on. And so most agents didn't have that. So there are a lot of office computers that we worked on. It was all DOS based, no pictures, no maps. And it was all printed out on dot matrix printers, So we've come a long way. But here's what's interesting, because everyone's like, it's going to change everything. It's going to change everything. And honestly, in 20 years, definitely some new tools, some amazing efficiencies, but the base of the business has really not been disrupted much at all. Till now. I believe we're seeing changes in the consumers that are not going to go away. And that's so, say like the last 10 years as technology's really taken hold, and people are like, oh, it's going to be online, it's going to be this, it's going to be that. And I'm like, well, we're seeing some things, but nothing drastic. I feel now it's drastic.
Right.
Boy, if you're not online, if you haven't been focusing on that, if you don't understand it, the last 6 months have probably been very difficult for you.
But Travis, you bring up an interesting point, but I'd like to throw a caveat in there that I feel like we saw it coming. And no, we didn't see COVID-19 coming, and we didn't see all the other things that are occurring that got us to the point where all of a sudden online has become so much more important. But we've been talking about online for a long time. We've been talking about social media. We've been talking about video. We've been talking about, 3D Matterport, the 3D virtual tours. That's been available to us for going on, I'm going to guess, almost a decade now, maybe.
Let me ask you.
Yeah.
Has it really been that brought into the system to a degree that you're like, wow, this is really what we're doing now? I probably should know the answer to my question before I ask it. But my impression is, I'm the opposite. I say no.
I say
Matterport?
Yes.
Who's put Matterport in their business model before this year in COVID and being forced online?
Some people had, but and this is how I look at the difference of whether or not it's something that's a requirement. So and this is funny. I had this conversation with somebody yesterday because we were talking about social media and how important social media is, and do I need social media? And my answer is no. You honestly don't. You don't need 3D Matterport. You don't need video. You don't need to be on Instagram. You don't need to be on Facebook. And I say that because I can show you examples of plenty of people that are doing just fine in this industry and are having a very nice career and successful business. And none of these things are part of their business. Now, the opposite side of that is there's a lot of people that are introducing this to their business. And here's where I really see this change has occurred. I saw the change occur as in taking expertise has always been one of the things that I've preached in this office. We have in our particular situation, you know, average year's experience within our office is very high. Number of sales per transaction or number of sales per agent, very high, above the industry standards in these worlds. But what has happened with technology is technology has really introduced and made it a lot easier for people without experience that are new to compete with those people doing a different message, because those people that are experienced and have their way of doing business are now competing with those people that are online that are presenting a perception of success or a perception of I don't know how to say it, but that's where I see that we've seen the biggest change. But I also look at things of, is it becoming a necessity? And I answer the question this way: when a consumer asks you, are you doing this? And if you fall into a position that you will lose that business to somebody else because your answer is no, then I see that as a necessity. We didn't used to hear, you know, do you do 3D virtual tours, Matterport? Now we hear it, and if you say no to that person or to that potential seller, you run the risk of them going with somebody else just based on that. Make sense? I don't know,
like it.
I don't know, not even sure there was a full question in there.
No, it's good. It's just along the same line. You know, the other thing I was looking at, and maybe this is where you're going to go to, because maybe I was a little bit off there, but let me describe what I'm seeing now. And maybe this will play a little bit into what you're saying about people who don't have a social media presence or don't want it or don't need it. But I would argue in the last 6 months, what I've seen is interesting. So you have the group of experienced, tenured agents. But within there, you have two subsets. You have those that have been working their business the whole time, and you have some that fly by the seat of their pants. Mm-hmm. Those that have been working their business, i.e., they have a geographical farm, they have a sphere of influence, they have systems in their business, they do things with intent. A lot of those people have had the year of their life, of their career this year. Those who fly by the seat of their pants, the majority, I would argue, I believe, have had some of the worst years of their life. And so we've got this disparity here. And there are also the newer agents, right? New agents to the business. Well, if you're a new agent, it's very difficult out there right now because you don't have those tools at hand that everyone's had traditionally to build their businesses, with the exception of what? Being online.
Yep.
Whether it be pounding social media, whether it be buying Google ads or getting involved with some of the referral systems. That's really been one of the driving forces of new prospects. And I think that's only going to grow in the future.
Well, and here's a message that I just got from what you just said, and recognizing this shift that's occurred. So as a seasoned agent, we hear so often that, you know, with so many people coming into the industry, business was being taken away by the onesies and twosies of somebody just getting new in the business and taking that away. Mm-hmm. And you just mentioned, you know, those that do or did have a plan put together, did actually pivot or having some of the best years of their lives. I want to point out that the business that they had this year, that means that they took some of that business away from those onesies, those twosies, and those others that weren't making those pivots and making those changes. So we've actually had a shift where in our market traditionally, the experienced and that part of the industry that had their systems in place were losing business to those onesie twosies. That there was an actual shift in that this year in this situation that has occurred, where that was kind of taken back. So it's exciting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Scary.
And it's a testament to the base of real estate and what real estate's all about, and that, or sales in general, I suppose, which is to have those relationships and to maintain those relationships over time. Because even if you get in and right now you're like, okay, I'm going online, I'm going to get these leads and I'm going to prospect this way and get these new clients. If you don't transfer those into your systems, which are based on age-old theories of sales and how to maintain those clients, you're going to continue to be in that same situation your whole career. And then you're going to suffer like the seat of their pants agents right now, who they could have been in the business 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, and they're surviving by the seat of their pants. What I mean by that is deal to deal, but not really benefiting from the leverage of having done all those deals, which is the beauty and the best part about real estate, is getting that business back from business you've already done. So many agents don't have the systems in place that they're getting none of that. A lot of agents are getting a fraction of what they should get. And those agents that have that in place are getting paid in spades today.
Yep.
Geographical farms I've seen, people said, I want the agent. I want that agent that knows what they're doing to get my home sold. And people are calling the agents that they have relationships with. I heard this acronym. I can't believe I never heard this before. Or not, I don't know if it was an acronym, but someone described to me, they said, okay, real estate's traditionally been agent, property, closing, right? So the consumer goes out, says, boy, I want to buy a house. I'm going to go find an agent. Okay, let's look at those properties and we'll go to closing. And that whole paradigm has been turned on its head because the consumer today, at least the online consumer, so the younger generations and, you know, expectedly continuing generations, is property, agent, closing.
Yep.
So when you're out there prospecting, they're looking at the properties first and then the agent comes after that. But if you can continue that prospecting and have your systems in place, all those people that you get from prospecting, I believe, go back to realtor property closing.
Mm-hmm.
I hope it's not an eternal lack of what's the word I'm looking for? Of loyalty, right? To someone who's done a good job for you. I think that'd be sad in a bigger way than just in sales, but for society in general, that would be sad. But to grab those prospects right now, a lot of them, yeah, they don't have an agent and they go for the property first and then they end up with an agent.
So true, and we see it so often, and it's, you know, the mindset in the world has always been, or at least in our industry, we hear so often, yeah, people like to work with people, or not like to work with people, work with people that they know, or that they think they know, and I've always challenged that thought, and in our industry, I don't think that that's always the case, or really the case. I really think that the buyers and the sellers out there work with people who think are going to get them what it is that they're looking for. That's so often why we would see somebody that had a relationship with somebody walk into that open house and all of a sudden write that offer with that particular agent. It's because in their mindset and how their systems were set up is they thought that that was the best avenue to get what they were looking for, that particular home. And I think we forget that. And you know, it was funny, I got online this morning and one of the posts that I saw from an agent, and it was titled "Frustrated. I used to wear these hats. Now I'm wearing these hats. I'm not even sure how many hats I'm supposed to be wearing in this particular environment, and which hat is which." And it made me chuckle when I heard it, and I looked at it and I was all like, they're right. You know, how many different hats are we wearing now that we weren't wearing before? Which ones still apply? Which ones don't apply? Do they all still apply? Plus now it's these, and you know, exactly who is the agent now? So I guess I go back to again, and let's talk about the importance of some of the other pivots that we've seen. I mean, we talked about social media. Social media has been a pivot that, have you made a pivot and an adjustment in social media personally?
Oh, yes.
Okay. What does social media look like to you today versus 6 months ago?
don't know if I can say exactly, but I'll take a stab at it. Way more video. Is that the type of thing you're looking for?
Sure.
Of course, we got into stories now instead of postings. And it's just continued to grow. It's people expressing themselves. TikTok, right? It's information source. Actually, it's an information source is a huge part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I say I don't watch the news. I do online. I get mine from Facebook and maybe a news app. I don't watch the national news or anything anymore. But that's how people convey it, and that's Twitter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Twitter mainly is people shoveling out information about what's going on around the world.
So the other day, I heard I heard the dreaded and the dreadful and the sad, two cars colliding. I was at home and I heard two cars colliding outside. First place I went, Facebook and LinkedIn or not LinkedIn, Facebook and Twitter, because that was probably my quickest source to figure out and find out what had just happened. Because
or next door.
Exactly. Because within 5 minutes, somebody is going to post something, or someone I know is going to get a post out there that I would be. So you're right. That is our new news source that's out there. And that is the first place that everybody goes. But I asked the question because part of our business is making sure that or creating that brand for ourselves and creating what I like to call that starism, where you're walking down the street and somebody says, "I see you everywhere." And you mentioned earlier, in the business 21 years. I see you everywhere 21 years ago used to be, I see your sign everywhere. I see you in my mailbox, or maybe if you're a door knocker, a consistent door knocker or something like that, I see you in my community. I see you everywhere. Now I see you everywhere. And I ask this question: as you've made a shift in your social media, have you noticed and had those conversations yet with people saying, "I see you everywhere, I see you online everywhere, I always see this," or starting to mention those things that you're posting about showing up? Are those conversations starting to present themselves to you?
Yes.
So I'm hoping everybody heard that word because I got asked the question again of, is social media important? And yeah, you can live without it, but do you see a positive ROI in it? Well, how do I measure ROI?
Exactly. It's like your marketing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's hard. It's not a knock on a door and did somebody open it or not. It's, I'm out there for people to see me, and you have to have that in conjunction with something typically to be the most effective, i.e. geographical farming, and then being able to deliver online content. So when people are on their computers, they also see you. So you get that combination effect. But it's hard to measure. They can say they delivered up so many ads. And I even believe they try to talk about click-throughs and all that. I'm not sure that that's a great measurement of the money you spend on something like that, because someone may not click it at all, but see it and be like, "Oh yeah, hey, there's Nestor," and it's a reminder, and you get the business, but they never click through.
So that leads me to a question. So I'm an agent. I'm creating a geographic farmer. I'm doing whatever. I'm creating a brand for myself, and traditionally it was create a budget. First question, yes or no, should you have a budget for online marketing?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Second question is,
you should have, and I know you said yes or no.
Mm-hmm.
You sound like an attorney, by the way. So I'm going to take the liberty.
Go for it.
Say you should have a general marketing budget. So no matter what happens that year, this is what I'm doing online. And then you should have a listing online marketing budget. for that particular listing.
Okay. Second question, should I be measuring?
I need a little more clarification.
Should I be measuring the results, my ROI? Now, I know you mentioned earlier it's a little bit more difficult to measure what the ROI really is, but should there be measurements in there?
Yes, I'll say it's always good to measure. So pay attention to that and see what happens, because generally then what's delivered or what's clicked through or what there is, if you can get a, over time feeling, if you used to be up here and all of a sudden you're down here, it's like, whoa, what happened?
Right.
Maybe that could be something as simple as the service you're using just isn't effective anymore. There's another service that you should be using. It's not necessarily marketing's a problem, it's how you're delivering it.
Correct. And I believe that you should measure and that there should be measurements. And so often we spend the time to look at our measurements as, well, how many sales is it producing, or how many listings, or how many buyers is it producing? And there are other things that can be measured. How many impressions are out there? How many impressions to the right people? So often we hear this in the social media world of, I have so many followers versus this person's followers, and I need to get more followers. You don't need to necessarily get more followers. You need to get the right followers. You need to present your message to the right people. And for so long, we all know it. We all experience it. And one of the things that I feel is a major pivot in our industry right now that everybody should be doing online is redirect marketing. We all go online. We all see every single day that something shows up and presented to us as an ad because Google either heard us say something, or Alexa heard us say something, or we've typed in something, or we went to a particular website. And all of a sudden, watch this, Travis. You know what? I think we should talk about wanting to buy a new car, and Google, tell me what the newest cars are out there for coming out in 2021. Now, I say that because at the end of this episode here, I'm going to grab my phone, because I said the word Google, and we already discovered that my phone is listening to me earlier because it turned on from something else I said. I bet you I can scroll through either my Facebook, my LinkedIn, or my Instagram, and I'm going to get a car commercial or some type of car ad within the first 5 posts, just because I just said something. And I don't think that people are taking into account how powerful that retargeting and marketing and ad, that's getting your message in front of the right people. Because Google just heard me talking about buying a new car with Travis, that it now decided that it needs to present me with that information and thinks that it's presenting it to the right person.
What are you going to get, Nestor? Are you going to get a Toyota or a Chevy? All right, let's see if they get that, if they pick up on that. Now, my daughters, it's funny because we all talk about it and we think it's creepy, and we make a joke about it and we forget about it. And it's out there. I think my daughter's her and her friends talked about cat food or something intentionally near their phones. And sure enough, whoop, got delivered that message.
Exactly. So I think that that's one of the biggest things that a lot of people are overlooking right now, that is a pivot point or a change in messaging and how that message goes out there, and getting that right message to the right people. Obviously we're seeing more communications happening right now. One of the biggest changes I've seen is more communication, more Zoom. This has been a new way, and we're seeing Facebook creating some new stuff to be able. We saw Google come out with something new to get into this world, and this form of communication really is video. This is part of our new face-to-face. Do you think that this is going to stay forever?
That is a good question. And I do not know yet. But you know, that I guess that was my biggest point. I don't know if I said it clearly earlier, or if I said it at all, but I think that's one of the biggest changes that we're seeing is in the consumer. Do we all use Amazon before this situation? Yes. Did we all go on social media? Yes. But I think it got pushed so to the forefront as we were all locked down, and all of a sudden everyone is so used to Amazon now, right? Yep. It's like second nature. Getting food delivered to your house through Hub, Zub, whatever these different services are called. I mean, the whole situation really pressed people to do these things that maybe they hadn't really thought about a whole lot, or to say, I don't think I want to do that. I'll just go out and do what I want to do. Well, now you're forced to do it at home. And I think it really brought it into people's consciousness and comfort level. And so I think in many ways, that is what has changed. The way the consumer operates, their comfort with working online and how things work, and being willing to go there even more. Because, right, it existed before, but now it's just so all over our consciousness and our actions that I think that's one of the biggest changes that is going to come out of this. And how's that going to affect the real estate industry? You know, have people been programmed to just automatically go to the internet to look for properties, as opposed to trying to find an open house or dropping by in all these different ways? Who knows? It'll yet to be seen. But I think it really forced us into a lot of technology that we thought maybe wasn't efficient enough yet, or we didn't have a comfort level with, and all of a sudden we're being forced to use it. And you know how that is. Change is difficult, but then it's accepted.
So, and I'm going to challenge everybody out there, and I want to use Amazon. Travis just brought up Amazon. You brought up Amazon as an example. And when this pandemic hit, Amazon made a pivot and they made a change on how they were doing things, and they saw a tremendous amount of growth overnight. I'm going to say a word to everybody and see if this makes sense to you. Skype. It's always been there. Basically does the exact same thing that we're currently doing. Yet when that pandemic hit, there was no pivot, no change, and along came this little company called Zoom and created the same basic thing as Skype with a couple of fundamental differences. No real marketing or anything occurred out there. Zoom took off basically word of mouth, person to person. There's an example of a pivot and an organization or a company in this particular place taking advantage of something that already existed. And I bring this up because as an agent in the industry, you exist to your database, to your geographic farms, to whoever knows you out there. And the example is, if you don't make those pivots and you don't make those changes, somebody else is, and they are going to be that person's Zoom and get that business because they made that change or they made that pivot to something that already existed. You're perfectly capable of taking care of that, the sale of that house, or helping them with that purchase, and they know that. But something else came along and created a pivot where you didn't. So that was my example.
So, yeah, I mean, they're on the edge. I remember, I mean, right, we get packages. I order a package at 10 a.m. and I get it at 2 in the afternoon. It's like,
yep.
What? How's that even possible? Or the one that kind of freaked me out a little bit, I don't know if they still do it. I think they've kind of gotten over it a little bit, but they were using either Uber drivers or just independent contractors. And I'd have some really suspect looking cars pull up in front of my house and random people get out and hand me a package. I'm like, what's going on here? I haven't seen that in a while. So I think they've gotten their system together. But in the meantime, they pivoted, they got the deliveries done, and now I think they've built out the fleets that are taking care of that for them now. But that was an interesting time. That showed that they were willing to do what they needed to do to work with the times.
So we got a message in the chat that we should, one of the agents that she says that her husband is actually, that is his job is basically cybersecurity and strategies and innovation around the whole IP world. And she finished by saying that it's frightening that what the IP world hears. So let's take a look at Instagram.
The what world? The IT?
Yeah. So first post from my friend Katie Lance. Okay. First ad I got was a cell phone, Google, and normal post, normal post, normal post.
Uh-oh.
Oh, here we go. Okay. So Nissan, I got a sponsored ad from Nissan. Shop now. Normal post, normal post. Let's see what the next ad is. Security to come into a house for the scanning. And let's see. What's my next ad? Ralph's potato chips. Did we talk about potato chips?
I don't think so. That must have been this morning at your house. What were you having for breakfast?
So far, just one. Oh, there it is. Another car ad. So Volkswagen. And let's see if there's another car ad here within the, oh, and Volvo. So far, no Toyota. So three car ads sent to me. That was on Instagram. I'm sure if I went to Facebook, I would see something similar. But crazy how powerful that is.
Let me ask you, how do you get involved in that? I haven't really heard that. I know how to deliver up to a geographical area, right? Most of this is done through AdWorks, is really one of the easiest ways to do this. So you can pay them, and for a year, they'll make sure that you're visible to a geographical area, to your sphere. You give them information about who you're trying to stay in touch with. They'll keep you in front of them.
Correct.
Listings, they'll keep you in front of the seller, which I think is fantastic, because then the seller's like, wow, look at what my agent's doing for me. It's that built-in credibility, and really paves the way away from uncomfortable conversations about, well, what are you doing to help me sell my house? Boy, when they see an ad pop up while they're surfing Google and it's their house with you next to it, that solves a lot of issues. But yeah, how do you deliver content up on someone talking about here we go. Let me take a guess here. Google's like, they're like listening to us.
Hey.
And they know, they get the GPS information. They're like, all right, this person's in Irvine. And I'm like, hey, honey, when are we going to start looking at those new houses? We really got to buy a house. Catches that.
Correct.
How do we position ourselves to be the person whose ad is delivered up to that individual?
So that's a great question, and a couple of different ways. So retargeting can happen in targeting to people that have interest in other things. So for example, we know that in our industry that the majority of the people that are thinking of selling their home will start to look at home improvement sites and do home improvements about 18 to 12 months prior to putting their house on the market. That they will naturally start looking at the Home Depots, the DIY sites, and I'm sorry.
What about house? Like, what is it? HOUZ?
Exactly. Any DIY, how to do something as far as home improvements. So when you can create a Google ad that's saying, send my ad to, for example, you can say, get an instant property evaluation or something like that, and send it to people that are looking at these particular sites, that are, looking at these home improvement sites or have these home improvement interests. You can also tell Google to present your ad to people that have an interest in things like Zillow, realtor.com, the natural things in our industry that we know if they're on those sites that they're searching.
Yeah, so we used to we'd go and say, all right, if someone types in Irvine Homes, I want to be delivered up to that, right? I want to be at the top of the list. So they have to be doing that based on audio information.
They're doing it based on audio. They're doing it based on other searches that people have made. They're doing it based on websites that the people have gone to. They're doing it based on keywords that are typed into emails. They're doing it based on information that's being done in Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. You know, you tweet right now that, hey, you know, thinking about looking for a house, you're going to start getting house ads, because it's the whole world is connected there and it's paying attention to that. And so that's the like really sophisticated part of it. But there's real simple things that we can do. Everybody has a database. You can actually create a custom database within your Facebook or your Instagram that if you've got people's email addresses, you can create a custom list. So let's say you have a geographic farm and you've got the email addresses or phone numbers for those people. You can plug that into Facebook and you can tell Facebook, I want to run an ad, and the ad's only going to those people, so that your dollars are being spent on people that are also getting your mailing or also seeing you in the neighborhood, instead of being spent all on just, you know, that guerrilla marketing platform of throw it out there as far as you can and see what sticks. You're now creating a target. You can add pixels, so you can take Google Analytics and add that to the back end of your website. You can take Facebook pixels and you can drop those into all of your websites, and anybody who visits your site can now get pinged where Google or Facebook, for
Here's
example.
some results from the web.
There we go. So my phone is talking to me again. I can take Facebook and pull a pixel out of there and drop it into my website, and anybody who visits my website for the next 2 weeks, if they go onto Facebook, they'll get presented with my ad. And if they click on my ad, it will re-energize that and say, show them an ad again. And then you can get fancy and tell Facebook, hey, if Travis looked at this ad or looked at this video that I did, I want you to now send him this video the next time he comes on. And if he looks at that video, I want you to send him this video. So it takes a little bit of time and a little bit of setup, but that is the new way of marketing. And unfortunately, so often what I see in this industry, and I feel like we're getting a little off topic, but so often what I see is people just throw it out there for the masses because they're just looking to throw it out there and say that they did it, instead of having a true strategy, measuring that ROI behind. But even if you throw it out there to hit the masses, run a secondary ad that says, send this to everybody who listened to my first ad, or who took action on my first ad, who clicked on it, who listened to part of it, who did whatever. Throw them another ad that's something different. Did that answer your question?
That's amazing.
It's scary. It is truly scary, but you know, it's the new version of, I put a mailer out there and somebody called us or emailed us on it. We want to send a follow-up to them. This is the new way. It's just at first when they click on these things, we just don't know who they are yet. So we have to continue to present stuff in front of them.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I think we always find new ways to do things. I think, like you're saying, a lot of the things that we do haven't changed.
Yep.
You know, if you're a planned out, long-term thinking and visioned individual, and you work that plan, you will have success. And hopefully you implement some of these things into what you're doing. But it doesn't have to be. It can be a lot of things that have always been successful in real estate. I think that's the main thing.
I think one of the biggest problems that we have in our industry right now, we mentioned technology and taking advantage of technology. I think one of the things that's been detrimental to a lot of people is too much technology. There's a new app, there's a new system, there's a new CRM, there's a new this every single day. And I think so many people in our industry get caught up in that, thinking that just because it's new, that it is the right situation or the best situation. And we see that jumping from here to here to here to here, and then really having no success because so busy dealing with all these junk apps that are out there and junk technology that really doesn't serve a purpose for us, and is somebody out there monetizing on our industry basically.
Yeah, you can get lost in that for days.
Do you use a CRM? That answer for everybody should be yes. Do you have a CRM? What's the best CRM that's out there? The one that you use. Yeah. But, just in the last, in the last year, maybe 2 years, how many new CRMs have been produced and developed and come out, and how
staggering.
Exactly. How many organizations have come out and I'll post, for you, and I'll do this for you, and got a text message last night. Do you need more? It came just directly to my phone. Do you need more good reviews? Click here. So like the silliness of everything, but anyway. We're talking about the pivots and the changes that we've made during this time in COVID. I'll share some stats that I found interesting. I was listening to Inman and was listening to an interview that they were doing, and a poll was done of some of the agents. And one of the things that really struck me, and the real question was, when this pandemic hit, what were we going to do? And here are some staggering numbers. The majority of the people in our industry cut back, and the majority of the people in our industry will remain and continue to cut back and not make any changes. Those were the two things that stuck out to me the most, and were scary. Now, I get it from the standpoint of when this first hit, hey, we don't know how this is going to affect us economically and what's going to be happening, and making cutbacks and things like that made sense. But we were in this for about 30 days before we saw the market start to really just come back and be, I don't want to call it normalized, but those activities of cutting back right now in our current market doesn't make sense to me. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but that just does not make sense to me.
We should strive to always be in a position to be able to carry ourselves for 6 months in
Correct.
the best of markets and the worst of markets, because it's never beneficial. It's never good idea to take your foot off that pedal when it comes to your marketing and your prospecting. And yeah, we had in March into April, there was a huge break, and it was hard. I mean, we were really learning how to operate in a new way, but certainly by May into June, it should have been right back on the gas pedal. We kind of figured out a few things. How can we operate? How can we keep in contact? How can we get transactions done? And obviously we've launched into a really great period of time for people who want to buy and sell. Long-term vision and keeping that vision is just so important to this business. And if we just panic at every little change in the market, say, no, I'm not going to send out that mailer. No, I better not spend the money on that AdWorks. You're dead in the water. You've already decided what's going to work. Of course, you need to be reviewing that regularly. That's one thing about this business is people are like, well, here's what I do. Oh, I got to change it. Yeah. Every year, little things are changing in your business. And in 5 years, 10 years, your business is going to look nothing like it does now. But that doesn't mean that you're not constantly planning and looking to the future and making adjustments that you need to. Now, when we hit a time like this March, which we've never hit before, let's just say any time, 08, 91, what was it, 2000 was the dot-com crash, all these different things. You definitely want to look and say, okay, what am I doing? What money have I spent any experimental money? Hey, have I tried this or tried that? Is there anything I can cut back on? Is there a more efficient way to do something? That's definitely a great idea when you're in the midst of change. But hopefully you've planned ahead for change. And if that change doesn't happen for 4 years and you were already planned for it, awesome. That's right. Fantastic. You're the winner. It's where we need to be.
I like it. So we're coming up on the hour, so I wanted to wrap things up, respect everybody's time. Moving forward, what's one thing that you would look at right now moving forward in where we currently are and today? Today is today, and somebody comes to you and says, hey, what should I do?
Ooh, that's a broad, open-ended one. I think what people need to focus on is going back to what we've been talking about many years now, Nestor, which is we're consultants and we need to show who we are, and we need to pull a Gary Vaynerchuk, and we need to jab, jab, jab before we bring the right cross. And that's give away everything and show who we are, not be afraid of it. And it's got to be online, and it's got to be on video.
I like it. So my thought process, clean up. So we are going into, what do we have, like 110 days or so that are left in this year. You should start to be thinking about your plan for 2021. What's that look like right now? You should be, or I think that we should be looking at, hey, what in these systems aren't working? Where am I falling short? Where am I doing well? Testing everything out and hey, what can I get rid of? Look at your bank statements and figure out what you're paying for on a monthly basis, those $15 and $20 subscriptions that you've got to everything that's associated with our business, and which ones have I not been using and are not bringing me the value and that I've forgotten about, and cancel those. And going back to my database and looking at my database and how do I communicate with them moving forward.
Where is your database?
I'm sorry?
Where is your database? Maybe they should start with that. Is it in your files? Have you never done anything with it, but you've got 10 years worth of files there? Bingo. What a great project. Go in there, pull out that information, see where people are, update that information, get it in one repository. I don't care if that repository is, what's the one that everybody used to use in the old days, the first real big CRM? Something agent. I don't even remember now.
You're talking about.
Anyways, it doesn't matter if it's that or if it's Follow Up Boss, which is extremely powerful, if it's Booge, which is Remax product that's really doing well, or if it's Lion Desk, which is free through the board, or if it's note cards on your desk. I will take that as long as they all go in one place and you can work with them from there. And then you just have so many opportunities, When did I sell the house? Is it an anniversary? Can I call them? Is that part of your system? Did I help them purchase a house? How often do you tell your prospects what their home's worth? That's what people yearn for, right? Don't let Zillow do that. Calendar out. June, December. I'm sending out CMAs. Wait, did I get that right?
Yeah.
Comparative market analysis, CMAs, to my clients. I'm going to follow up with an email. Hey, just sent out a CMA for you about the current value of your house. Wasn't sure if you're aware. How are things going? Anything I can do for you? I mean, all these little things that you can make these touches. If you're good with birthdays, if you're good with drop-bys, just committing to it and doing it.
Absolutely. And be creative, think outside the box, and take action on things. You know, we talk so often about having those plans and things like that, but I also want to try to bring value to you guys about something that we can do to try to generate business now. And now is a great time because we are going into the end of the year. You know, you can take leave somebody a voicemail, you know, hey, Travis, it's Nestor. Hopefully everything is going well with you and the family. And I just wanted to let you know that I was going to drop an email to you with a current market analysis coming up on the end of the year. A lot has happened this year with prices and things like that. So I just wanted to drop that in your email and let you know that it should be there in the next day or two. Hope all is good. You know, you take your database and call everybody with a purpose, and you don't want to have a conversation with them. You want to use one of the programs that's out there to be able to drop a voicemail into them. That's perfectly fine. But I can promise you this, that if you do take action and some simple things just a little bit outside of the box, you'll get some callbacks. And you'll get some, oh, well, yeah, we were thinking of doing something. Because our next real hit in the market usually comes after the first of the year. They're going to start thinking about that now. And we want to start.
What do you mean by a hit in the market?
Is we normally see an uptick in the market right around what, January 14th, January 15th.
Okay. Kind of sounded like you meant like there was doom around the corner or something. I want to make
sure. No, we normally. So
you mean an uptick in the market?
An uptick in the market. We're gonna, you know, normally we're going into October, November, December, and traditionally we see things slow down because of the holidays, and then that pent up anxiety and everybody and wanting to do something usually happens right after the second week of January. We start to see activity start to take place, but they've made their decisions, and we can be in a place where we can have influence on that of who they're going to call and who they're going to, you know, ask information about now. We don't want to call them on January 13th and say, hey, I know you're going to probably do something tomorrow, or you might think about doing something tomorrow. We want to start presenting ourselves now. And, you know, one of the, you know, I'll tell you about a piece of technology that I feel I've enjoyed very much. And you actually introduced this to me years ago when it first came out, BombBomb. Travis introduced BombBomb to me, and you had BombBomb for a while and you were doing it. And then in this pandemic, I actually brought BombBomb back into my world and signed up for it and made a commitment. And one of the things that I really like about BombBomb is it tells you who does something. You know, if I send out a video right now, it will tell me whether or not that person is actually watching that video, opening that email, which tells me send them another message, right? I was talking to an agent this morning, and she said, we were talking about a listing presentation that she had gone on 2 weeks ago. And I said, you know, what's happening with that listing presentation? I know they interviewed 3 different people. And she says, yeah, I'm sending out messages to them, but they haven't responded. It's dead silent. I just wish that they would call me. And she uses BombBomb. And I said, well, are you sending them any BombBomb videos? And she said, yeah. And I said, well, are they clicking on the video and are they watching the video? And she said, yeah. And I said, then you're doing great. They're actually taking your information and digesting it, doing something with it. When they stop clicking on it is when you think that thing's done, but you are getting positive feedback there and a reason to continue to move forward. Those are people that you should stay in touch with because you've sent something and you know that they've done something with it, versus old technology, send something in the mail and we don't know if they actually looked at it or threw it straight into the trash. So
one piece of advice.
Sure.
Don't say, hey, I saw that you opened up my video. Just let that lie, you know?
Exactly. You are exactly right. You don't
want to be that creepy real estate agent that's
correct. But our systems do give us feedback now. Most CRMs on the back end, if you're sending out emails through the CRM, they will tell you if the people are
fantastic.
clicking through and what they're clicking on the back end. So it does give you a certain amount of feedback. But anyway, so my thought process is we're coming on the end of the year. Think of some ways to be innovative. Think of some ways to be different. Put your systems in place. Make those adjustments. Measure, which we've always preached that, and adjust and do over again.
Yeah, and I wanted to make one point to follow up on what you said. And you said, you should be reaching out to your sphere if you want to use like a slide dial or something. And I just want to make sure that everyone out there understands. If you follow up with 100 of your contacts and you get nothing, in return, pat yourself on the back. Right. You reached out to 100 people, and no, they're not, or maybe the majority you're not going to hear from. That's okay. That's not like, oh, why am I even doing this? I think that's why so many people give up. They don't understand that. The victory is in the fact that you made the touch. And they know you made the touch. They're on the other end. They're getting it. But people have busy lives. And some people just aren't big on responding to things. And so make sure you give yourself credit when you reach out and you do 100 and you get one guy that calls you back and says, hey, thanks. That was a really cool message. By the way, how you been? That's okay. We want to measure these things. We don't want to keep pounding our heads against the wall. But so many of these things that we do, we expect a call like, oh, great. Oh, yeah, I saw your video. I've been wanting to list my house. Come over. Yeah, that's wonderful. But it's not the most likely response. Most likely response is really not a whole lot. And you want to, again, as Nestor said, you want to do what you can to be as effective and get people to respond. So you always want to be working on that. But don't let that be your goal. Don't say, oh, I only heard from 3 people. I'm such a failure. No, you're not. You did the work and you got that message out there. And then the best part is when you get to the next time you said you were going to do it, whether that be the next month or the next quarter, and you do it again despite what you thought of the results before, that's a double victory. Yep. Too many people get down on themselves because they feel like they're not getting the response. But this is a long-term vision game, and the more you're putting out there, the more you'll get in return. Even if it's not what your expectation is, even if it's not as quick as you want it, remember, this business does a lot of this too. And that's not because of you. That's just how things are. So anyways, I wanted to reiterate that. The victory is in the activity, not necessarily in the results for everyone.
Love it. Happy Friday.
Yeah, we went long. So let's get out of here. I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend.
Absolutely. Looking forward to seeing everybody. Again, if there's anything that anybody needs over the weekend, we're always available and happy to help. And thank you guys very much. Appreciate it. And hopefully you enjoyed it today.
Thanks, Nestor.
Thank you, Travis. Take care.